Started. Hey, good afternoon, you guys. Thanks for joining me. I hope everybody had a great Easter weekend. We're into week 6 here. This week, we're going to cover off the listing side of things and the lead gen, seller counseling, all of the things that come with the list side and the sell side, and focus on that and dive deep into that this week. Just a reminder from the previous weeks, we have, in case you haven't got that done, we got your planning and your business planning and all of the numbers and that from week 1. We focused on your database and building your database and your database touches and getting your marketing plan together for that in week 2. We talked about learning what to say and how to say it and being more effective communicators and script and dialoguing. And then in week 4 and 5, we covered off about 6 or 7, maybe even 8 other lead gen funnels and other ways in which you can generate your own leads and prospecting methods and that. And obviously every week is always a goal to get a saleable listing and to also email me and recap and summarize before each session how you made out in the previous week. So a reminder to keep doing that and hold yourself accountable and stay the course in the goal is to just keep you going and keep the momentum rolling right through your spring and summer markets here. So we're going to start off with first just where I'm seeing and where I hear are the most listing lead opportunities coming from. So I think that obviously the first source that we're going to talk about first is your database. We talked about the 21 to 22% return on investment. So we need to add value. We need to do something that makes them feel like they need to do something back in return. And focus on that database and then as that a resource. So a reminder of the unsolicited CMA packages and sending those out and letting them know that you can use the information for the following different reasons and no reason to believe you're in the market, but let them know what something similar to theirs has just recently sold for or asking for and that, and just plant that seed that they may be from the information you received. And then obviously the trick is not to give them the price and what you think the price is and have them called 5 days later and did you get the information? Do you have any questions? Any thoughts or any ideas in that? Well, I noticed that you didn't give me the evaluation. Yeah, for legal purposes and insurance purposes, we're obligated to view any premise that I give a number to. When would be a good time for me to come by, see that property and give you that valuation? Be glad to do that. And by the way, do you know of anybody else that wouldn't mind this service offered to them? No obligations whatsoever. And last but not least, ask them if they have other holding properties or any other properties they'd like evaluated other than just their primary residence. One of my favorite things to do is normally on social media or email blasts or video blasts, I'll let them know that my listings have sold and I'm now taking new listings. And, it seems simple, but if you don't ask, you don't get. So, be in the mode. It's funny, like I tell online leads, just send them an email that you're going to turn them off the saved listing search and that, and you get a response like that. It's the same as letting people know that, you're taking listings now and that the inventory is at an all-time low and that you're taking listings and all your listings have sold or the majority have sold and you're not, and do that multiple times during the year and let them know, because if you don't ask, you don't get. We talked about geo farming in one of the sessions there, where you're specifically a neighborhood or a complex or an area in that or a niche where you're focusing on and becoming that resident expert on the geo farm. We talked about the expired listing and how to work that around and the workaround of it and doing the door knock around that expired. But the door knock for a bona fide buyer and tuck the letter in and then just keep walking and knock back, right? So tuck and then reverse knock. Don't knock and then run out of time to be able to deliver enough of the bona fide buyer letters or the just sold letters or the price reduction or invite to open letters and that. The best listing lead bait for door knocking and bona fide buyer letter or the just sold and buyer still looking letters. Great way to pick up listing leads is open houses, because if they want to buy, they have to sell as well. Addressed direct mail is way more effective than unaddressed mail. So sending direct mail, not unaddressed mail, is effective. Does anybody do YouTube pre-roll? Has anybody looked into that for advertising? So the number one search engine is Google. An area that people don't consider that's incredibly powerful is putting ad roll and pre-ad roll advertisement on YouTube, and it's actually inexpensive. Is anybody in your firm doing that? Anybody advertising on YouTube? Look into it. Look into it, guys. It's the number 2 search engine in the world is YouTube. And so the inexpensive way of putting ads in, to listing ads or buyer ads and pre-roll ads, and it's very inexpensive, is on YouTube. A great way to look at an opportunity of doing that. And then we also offer like the letting people know on Facebook posts that prices have gone up this much in a neighborhood, and thinking about what yours is. So not tell me what you're, curious about what your house is worth. I think the clients are on to that one, but actually putting a video out or a post out that prices have risen in a certain neighborhood, and targeting a certain neighborhood for people that are curious about what their property is worth now and how properties have risen in the last 12 months. What do you think or forecast the prices have risen? How much in certain areas in Red Deer would you say, guys?
No idea.
No? They're up, obviously, though. Prices are up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like saying, and just pick a neighborhood in Red Deer that, did you know that prices are up this much, this many thousand or this much percent? That curious about what your property is worth, message me, kind of thing, right? So using the social media or using the advertisements there. For sale by owners, I'm not sure if they're out there in that. Obviously, the mere posting companies usually take care of that. One thing that I think is very unaddressed and untapped is anybody in good favor or does a good job with the businesses and the services and the tradespeople in Red Deer? It's such an untapped resource. We're going to talk about that. The opportunity of becoming the residential agent of choice for tradespeople, business owners, small business owners, service providers. Think about that, the B2B side of things. Agents are so P2P focused and not B2B. And those business owners, those service providers, those tradespeople, those people that are providing a service or a business in that, they are looking for a residential go-to person as well. And that's such an untapped resource in that. And then the online lead component, where we can talk about neighborhoods or generate online leads or online lead generation. We talked about how to convert those leads and all the different opportunities we have for generating more internet leads and leads from that standpoint. So those are what I'm seeing is to be the top areas and resources for getting listings in that. Anybody else having any experience in any other sources of for listing leads other than the ones that I just shared? We're good? All right.
Yep.
Go ahead. No, we're good?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to break down the seller listing appointment into 4 phases. Okay. So if I was to get an inquiry and I was still listing properties and doing this, this is how I'd break it down into 4 phases. Okay. So the jury's out, or the question is, do we do a 1-stop listing or do we do a 2-stop? Does everybody know the difference between 1-stop and 2-stop? So 1-stop, you're doing it all in one swoop, and 2, you're doing it in 2 steps, 2 phases. Okay. The jury's out. So I'm always prepared to do a 1-stop, but always end up trying to deliver a 2-stop. Okay. That's my own personal opinion. I believe that you should always try to deliver it in 2 and knock your competitors out in 2 and differentiate yourself in process by doing it in 2 versus, but be ready to do it in 1 if you have to. So let's just assume the initial request of come tell me what my house is worth has come in. I'm going to pull some titles. I'm going to pull some old listing information. I'm going to pull assessment. I'm going to pull my comps. I'm going to prepare and do all the listing documentation and put it all into place and have it all put together when the initial inquiry comes in, because I'm going to be ready to go in a 1-stop just in case, but I'm going to focus on and build a 2-stop and 2 phase. So this is my initial, before I've even met you, phase 1. As well, in phase 1, I'm going to deliver you my pre-listing package. I am also, my assistant or myself is going to be calling you and confirming you received the package. You went through the information, confirm our appointment and confirm the parties that are going to be present. I will also ask if there are any other decision makers that need to attend those meetings as well. Everybody know who I'm talking about, the silent assassins, the decision makers that need to be invited to the listing process as well and the presentation as well. Okay, so I'm going to have that courtesy call, confirm, go through all that. And then I usually had my assistant do this, but you can maybe not have an assistant, you'll do yourself. I'm also going to ask them to better serve them. Could I ask some pre-appointment questions? And I'm going to give you that questionnaire. to better serve you and to better prepare myself, some pre-interview or pre-initial questions and go through a questionnaire. A lot of times I just had my assistant do this, and she would do things like asking who else they're interviewing and when they're interviewing them and what are their key decision makers and what is their timing and what are they expecting and what are they wanting in that. And so my assistant would go through that, and they would just give me a better plan of attack. If they were to bring you an offer, a briefcase full of cash, how much cash would we need that in briefcase to get you to pack up and move the next day? My other way of asking what you want for your house or what you need for your house or what you're expecting of your house, I always want to have a ballpark number before I go in and do all of that. So this is all the things that happen before I've even met you. I want to use a pre-listing package because it's engaging, it wows them, it builds them trust, it gets them to know you quicker in that. All your materials in there, it makes your listing appointment more streamlined because I'm asking if you get through the materials already, and then I can ask out of the material what areas would you like me to focus on in our time together in that. And looks out, it knocks the competition out, it speeds up the appointment, it just helps you build that wow factor in knocking the competitors out and doing all that before we even meet, right? And so here are some of the examples of Dan that I coach in Golden, British Columbia. Dan uses this book that he has this, it's a beautiful hardcover glossy book that he uses on Shutterfly or on Staples or on Groupon, he'll order them. And so he has these delivered and sent to his clients with all of his market materials and the contracts and the documentation in advance. Some of my other coaching clients use baskets. Some of my other coaching clients use a branded box, like you'll see here, which you can get from a different company. And that Vistaprint just started doing these boxes, by the way. Really inexpensive Vistaprint. So imagine this being delivered by a courier or by your assistant or by where your children or your spouse or yourself dropped off, and that before you've even met me, all of this stuff is in there and all these items are in there, and this is delivered to the client in advance. Plus I'm confirming the appointment, plus I'm asking the pre-appointment questions, plus like I'm just trying to differentiate myself before we've even gotten together, that I'm very efficient, very proficient. My process is uniquely different than everybody else, and I don't do things the same way everybody else does it. And I want to be a lot like no one else, and I want to be able to really wow them and impress them before we've even met firsthand. Okay, and that's all phase one or pre even meeting with them, the initial meeting point, and that of all the things I'm going to do before we've even gotten together. In that package, I'd have my biography. I'd also have my team. So a lot of you are individual agents, but you actually have a team. Your team is your mortgage person, your graphic person, your sign person, your photographer, your home inspector, right? So I have a team page with the bio and pictures and all of that. So I want to create a perception that you're not just hiring little old Wade, you're hiring Wade and his team of professionals in that. My biography's in there. I have my mission statement. I have my core values. I have my feature benefit marketing services in there. I have my value proposition. I have the buying and selling steps in there. I have how I find buyers for your home in there, how I find the right home for you to buy in there. I have testimonials and clients and photos of clients in there in my packaging. I have a list of what I'll need. I love this. There's a page in there that I have what I need when we get together the first visit. So I need an extra key, I need utility bills, I need receipts for anything you've done on home improvements. If it's winter, I want summer photography and this and that. Guys, if I show up to a first visit and they've got all this waiting for me when I show up to my first visit because they've gone through my pre-listing package and they've got the items that I need, how do you like my chances of getting a listing when I first come in there? Would that be a good tell, a good signal, if they've collected all those items? So when my assistant calls, be sure that you read the page of all the items that Wade will require when he first meets with you on your first appointment. And she asks them to look at that, or you ask them to look at that and go through it all. So that's one thing I really know what I'm up against, or whether I'm really going to have to work harder or easier. It's a good tell for me whether I'm going to get their listing and I'm going to get their business when I arrive and that stuff's already in hand and already put together and set up. A list of buyers and what buyers will need when they go out to buy with me. The 10 best things that I didn't know that I want buyers to know about my house. There's a sheet in there on that as well. I might include a USB drive with a video of myself and my team, or how to prepare your home to sell by David Knox you can have on that USB drive. I might add a doggy treat. I might add some swag. I might add some water bottles, some microwave popcorn, Diet Coke, whatever. I want to make it the package impressive, and that when they open that box or when they unpackage that package and then all the documents and samples of all the paperwork and everything should be in there too as well, because one of them is going to be completely like this and the other one's going to be wanting to read everything. So like, for example, my wife Tina, she works at a law firm for 18 years. She'll want to go through all the paperwork and documents and read it all, so I may as well pre-deliver it to her to go through all that before I even get there, and before I go through the home, and before I even get there on my first visit. Okay, any questions on that pre-appointment phase 1 phase? Any questions on the pre-buyer, pre-seller packages and their processes and that? Any questions on that? Would you see that there's 1 or 2 things that you guys could do differently before you show up to a listing presentation already in this material today?
How early would you give this box? Would it be like, hey, I'll see you in next week?
Yeah, great question. So I'm gonna give a day or 2 max between the delivery time and the appointment time. Good question. A week would be too long in my mind. Okay, days would be my mind. 24 to 72 hours max would be my thoughts on that timing. Good question. Okay. All right. So that's the pre-phase and before I've even got their phase. So then and here's an appointment questionnaire, and that it'll be in Chad's email as well, you guys. So the samples and the checklist for the box materials will be in there. The questionnaire for the pre-appointment listing questionnaire will be in there for you. Everything will be in your email that Chad forwards on to you after, okay? So let's go step 2. So this is the first time I come to their home and come to their property. I'm assuming anyone on title's there. I'm assuming all the decision makers are there. Obviously, I'm going to take as much time as I need to get them to trust me and like me, and I'm going to forward them and go through that forward dialogue and that forward script and that forward campaign. Then it'll come to the time where I'll have my pre-planned questions, and I'll go through all my pre-planned seller questions. I may do those prior to touring the house, or I may do those after touring the house. It doesn't really matter, I don't think. So if you're on the talking train and you're forwarding them, and you're establishing rapport, you may as well continue with your pre-planned seller questions and that, or you could take a break and go through the tour of the house next, and then do the pre-planned questions when you come back. So I always say this, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, no one knows your home better than you do. So why don't you show me the home the way you want me to show it to your prospective buyers, so I'm able to tell your home story and I'm able to share it and I don't miss a thing. While we're doing this, I'm going to be taking notes, photography, measurements, and things like that. And I'm using that because I'm going to go back and I'm going to use the materials because my memory is really good and it's really short. So I want to make sure that all these factors and all these things that you're sharing with me contribute to your evaluation, and I want to make sure it's accurate and efficient. So I'll be doing that as we go through it. Also, as I'm going through, you guys, if an agent's going through during the showing process, the tour process, and they're oohing, awing, the seller's mindset is what? Oh, my house is awesome. Tiddly-ching, tiddly-ching. And their price expectations get higher and higher if you're going through and oohing and awing. So you have to find a balance of oohing and awing and pointing out flaws and giving them feedback. So instead of telling them that they're piggies and they're sloppy, I might just rub my hand on a counter and do this and then make a note on my pad. And then they're going to be triggered to ask me, oh, I guess we need to clean that a little bit better. And my response would be, I would. And that'll beat them down a little. And then I might say to them, I might sneeze because I am hyperallergenic. So I'm super allergenic to animals and that. And I may sneeze and just make a note on the pad and ask, any pets in the house? And then address that. Or smoking, right? I might just say, are there any smokers in the house? I'm not telling them they can't smoke. I'm bringing up the conversation about cleanliness, about smoking, about pets and pet odors, about repairs of like, there's a hole in their screen. I might just stick my head in the screen hole, write down on my pad of paper and make a note. And they're going to say, should we fix that? And your response would be, I would. Should we smoke outside during the listing? I would. Should we take our dog or get them groomed in that while we're trying to do the sale process? I would, right? So I want to lead them to bringing them down a few notches as I'm going through the tour process, and not so much oohing and awing and them ramping up their expectations. Two little bonus nuggets here, you guys. I have a kids contract from my sellers with their children. So I sit their kids down and I bring coloring crayons and things with them, and I have a little contract with them. And if they help mom and dad keep the house clean and everything that, I give them a $25 gift certificate to Toys R Us or Amazon or whatever they want for gifts are if they help us and contribute to taking care of the house and helping mom and dad out. And I also have a pet contract where the dog gets walked or this gets fed or that gets cleaned up and that. And I have a pet contract and a kid contract, and I usually do those and address those and work them through this out. Don't think that those aren't two of the most important people in that home and in that house. So I always reward them with a pet gift card to Pets Etc. or whatever the pet place is in Red Deer, and I'll honor the kids and give them a kids gift card when and if the house sells, and at the end of the process to get everybody to rally together and work together as a family, one big happy family. Okay, so I've afforded them. I've gone through and doing the tour in that. I've gone and addressed all my pre-planned seller questions. By the way, in your email from Chad, I've given you a list of all the best seller questions to ask. You can go through that as well. And then there's two incredibly important things that I need to have a discussion with on my first visit. Number one is I want to educate them on the benefits to them of a two-stop listing process versus a one-stop. So no disrespect, but all top hitters normally do them in one sweep, and I'm going to plant a seed of doubt. So if an agent does this in one stop, they don't take the time to hear your story. They don't get the time and take the time to hear your property story. And all of those contribute to the value of your home. So in order to better serve you, I take two steps. I calculate and grab all this information, and then I go back, and now I'm going to explain to them and educate them on my appraisal process. Can everybody remember the 4 appraisal methods that appraisers use that you took in your course? Anybody want to remember those four appraisal methods that you use that you should have still remembered how to do? One is comparison, right? And replacement, depreciation, and cash flow, right? So I explained to them, I'm going to use 4 distinct and reputable appraisal methods. Go home or go back to the office and research based on bedrooms, bathrooms, square footages, assessment values, all the different things that you've invested in this, that. It's going to take hours and hours of research and time to definitively come up with the accurate price for your property. In exchange for this, can I ask you to do me a favor, Mr. and Mrs. Seller? In exchange for the magnitude of the research and the in-depth appraisal process and that, I'm going to ask you to refrain from making a decision and wait until you hear the information and all the reporting and that. Can I ask you to do that favor and respectfully ask you to not make a decision until I come back and report that information? So a couple of critical things in that dialogue. Number one, I explained to them and took my competitors out, planting doubt that they shouldn't do one stop. They should always do a 2-stop. They're leaving money on the table. In fact, the one-stoppers are just making it up as they go, and they're just picking a number out of the air. And I don't wing it because you get wing it results. I do a step-by-step structured approach. I educate them on my appraisal. How many agents educate the in-depth magnitude of appraisal and analysis and the time and effort it takes to assess and evaluate their property? They think you press a button and you just get out a number. They have no idea. So I'm differentiating myself from my competitors by explaining my appraisal process. And I'm also covering my behind and making sure that they ask respectfully that I'm going to take this much time and energy and effort, that they do not make a decision with any other consumer until I come back and report that information to them. Right? Then I confirm that all parties and decision makers and title persons will be in attendance. And then I used to get this chocolate shop in Kelowna called Salable Chocolates. They make these incredible chocolates. And I had them make me thank you chocolate bars. They're actual chocolate bars with the word thank you on it. And I left them a chocolate bar, a little gift bag with my pad and pen and some swag as a gift of my token of my appreciation of my first visit. And who doesn't want to get chocolate and chocolate gift? And after giving you chocolate, who wouldn't wait to hear what I have to say on my second visit? Make sense? All right, so that's my phase 2, or all the things that I would do on my initial visit, on my first face-to-face visit in that process, okay? Now let's assume I'm coming back for phase 3. This is the first time that we've come back. Let's hope that ensure that I'm actually going to refuse to present. I'm going to say legally I'm obligated to present to all persons on title, including decision makers. So I'm not going to present unless all decision makers and title persons are in present, okay? I'll start off my next visit with all my small talk. I'll talk about anything other than real estate. Talk about the Calgary Flames getting knocked out. God bless them last night. Talk about whatever, right? The girls winning in the Canada game last night over US in a shootout. I'm going to just small talk and track in it. And I don't want to seem like a capitalist. So I want to just, again, just establish rapport and spend time in small talk and visit with them first. Then I'm going to recap and summarize all my notes about them, their answers, their thing. And I'm going to ask them if there's anything about their home that we missed or they forgot to tell me in my first visit. And then if I know they love their home, you guys, I'm going to, and they're so proud of it, I'm going to get them to show me around again. Because I'm going to just pump up their tires, shoot their egos and that, and let them tour me around again. You have an incredible home, and I know that there's so much pride. Would you mind just touring me around and telling me the story just one more time? Then after we finish touring around the second time, then I'll ask them to sit at the kitchen table, and then I'll explain to them, and I've got 22 minutes to explain to them why your brokerage, why your marketing plan, and why now. Why is it 22 minutes? Because that's the average adult's attention span and declining rapidly every day. So it is now 28 minutes after, and I just lost you guys 6 minutes ago. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I'm now going to explain to them the benefits of allowing me to present to them and explain to them what I do and how I do it. Benefit number 1. Okay. Write this down. I want to debunk all the myths that are out there. Myth number 1, all realtors are the same. Myth number 2, all brokerages are the same. Myth number 3, all marketing plans are the same. I want to take 20 minutes of your time and show you that that is the furthest thing from the truth. Benefit number 2, I want to take you behind the curtains, behind the scenes. I want to show you what it is we do all the time, 24/7, so that you're aware and you know what is involved and know what's to be done, so that now you can hold me accountable and ensure it gets done, and it gets done with excellence. Okay? So without me taking you behind the scenes, you don't know how things have changed and you don't know what to expect from me. And by you knowing and educating you and showing you that, you'll now be able to ensure that it gets done and help me with accountability in that. And we'll be able to show you how all agents, all marketing plans, and all brokerages do not do it the same way. And you'll be able to see those benefits. Is that okay with you if I take 20 minutes and show you? Okay. So I'm selling them on the benefits to them of me presenting. Think about this. The benefit to you guys, when you're not presenting and you do this, you're assuming, and you're actually robbing them of the greatest gift they can give you as an agent, to advocate and tell people what it is that makes you different, what it is that you do. Think about it. If you don't do your presentation, you don't show them what it is you do. And I'm like, some of you may say, hey, the 80s called and they want their presentation back. I get it, but you're robbing them of their greatest gift of being able to tell people what it is you do and how you do it differently, and what it is about what they enjoyed the most and what they were impressed the most about working with you and doing it. I can win in packaging. I can win in process. I can win in presentation. Listing is, you need to win in different ways. You need to win in your packaging, your pre-listing packaging. I need to win in my process, the way I do things, and break it down into 4 phases. I need to win in presentation and dialogue and how I present and what I'm presenting and what I'm doing and that. Like, there's so many different elements to being a top producing agent. And honestly, you think about this in Olympics or races, like last night, what was it? The 7th or 8th shooter. Like, it's one shooter apart from winning that pool A last night for the girls or losing that pool A for the girls last night. It's that tight. Like, if I was to go up against one of your top hitters for a listing, it's like so finite difference in who the difference of being hiring one person versus another person. So you've got to figure out these little differences. What you say, what you present, what you package, what you present, your process, and that's how I don't lose against the big guns, and how I don't lose against the big dogs, and how I won 99% of my listing presentations, because I took so much time to focusing on how my packaging, how my presentation, how my process, how my everything can be so different and uniquely different and advantageous to beating my competition, even in my own office. Sorry. I just like to win. It makes me feel good inside. All right.
Wait,
Yeah.
just a question. Normally for the second part there, I normally have them come into the office. Is there a benefit to me going to their house again instead?
Other than just the second touring time and the recap and stuff, no, not other than seeing it for the second time. No, not really. Not
Okay,
really.
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Good question. And honestly, Carrie, I don't think it would make the difference between whether they hire you or not between you doing the second one in the office or second one at the, and maybe it's uniquely different by you coming them to come to the office on the second one that'll help you win and process in your procedures, right?
Right.
Because I'm not sure if that's normal and that's having them come to the office for most competitors and that. So that would be good. That would be another advantageous process for sure by doing it different. Okay. So I've got 22-minute presentation. I do my listing presentation. And then my close is I'll ask them if we can agree on price. Did they see any reason or do they see any reason why they wouldn't want to list with me and put my marketing plan and put my brokerage to work for them? And I'll wait and I'll pause and I'll wait for them to answer that. I can write this down. The number one reason why they will not, or I'll give you the top 3 reasons why they're not ready to list. Number 1, you didn't build rapport and trust. They didn't like you, they didn't trust you, and you didn't take enough time to build rapport. That's number 1 reason why you don't get the listing. Number 2, they didn't like your asking price or your expectation of price. And number 3, they didn't like your fee. Okay. So you need to understand that you need to ask them if they don't sign to go back and ask them, was there something I was missing? Was there some reason that it was holding you back? And I'll go back and I'll probe and I'll dig and I'll because I do not want to leave without hearing the truth and without not getting the listing. I'll at least try and get the listing signed and post dated than leaving there without the signature on that phase 3 process. So if they say, no, wait, everything we saw was fantastic, we're super impressed, if we can agree on price, we would definitely be prepared to do something today. That's great. Then I'll do my pricing presentation and I'll go through that. And then remember to be careful not to unsale the sale. When they're ready to list, guys, sign it up, shut up, pack up, and get out. Do not unsale the sale. Okay? Just pack up, sign it up, head out, and get out of there. Okay? Be careful not to unsale the sale. Right? So that's everything that I do when I come back for the second time during the phase 3 process. Now my phase 4 process begins. So this is one of my favorite things to do. I have a prearranged arrangement with one of the flower shops in Kelowna. Boom, bouquet of flowers delivered on the first day of the listing with a thank you for their business card. Now, I did this to enhance the listing and deepen my relationship with my sellers. But you know what ended up happening? By having a bouquet delivered to the sellers, I ended up getting disgruntled buyers that didn't like their buyer agents, seeing that bouquet and seeing the way I was serving my sellers. And they weren't under ABAs and they were calling me to hire them to take out and be their buyer agent. True story. From that bouquet of flowers. And then I'll go through the listing marketing process. So I'm going to build a seller's book with my sellers. So on the dining room table, I'm going to put together a book with their help, with their survey plans, their building plans, the utility bills, stories about their neighbors, stories about the transit, stories about the school buses. I'm going to put anything I can possibly think of between the sellers and myself that we could do to build a seller's homework book and a book that will sell the property and answer all the questions buyers may have, and then put a master copy sticker on that and leave that on the dining room table of my listing. Anybody doing that? Building that kind of a booklet and that kind of a package with their sellers and then leaving them on the table. Most buyer agents have no clue of what to tell you about the home and about the property. At least you can put together this in-depth book and this package with your sellers and leave it on the dining room table to help sell the property better and inform the buyer and the buyer's agent better when they come through and look at my listings, if that makes sense. I still physically deliver copies to my clients of their documentation and that. I still think that anybody can email and anybody can send it. I think not everybody delivers physical copies. And then I also have little mini business cards and MLS feature sheets on their thing, and I'm going to show you that real quick. So this is one of my favorite things. So when you list with me, I will give you a stack of these little mini cards. Give me 2 seconds here. Can everybody see this?
Yes.
So I print these on the mailing address labels. They print perfectly on there. This is a mini MLS feature sheet of their house on the back of my business card on a sticker. Does that make sense to everybody? and I say, help me help you. Hand these out to anybody that drives up, your friends, your family, your relatives, anybody around there. Help me help you sell your property. How many people like the idea of this being handed out and 50 of your business cards being handed out by your sellers during the marketing process? It's actually one of the only good reasons to have a business card is to create this and to do this. Would you agree?
Yep.
Yes.
I do the exact same thing. Imagine this with the pictures of their new house and their change of address, where the address is in the feature and that. I do the exact same. I give them a stack of 50 business cards with their new pictures of their new house and their new address and their new contact information. And I give them a stack of those when they buy and when they move as well. How many people like that idea? Okay. All right. So little nuggets for you to be able to get these, they're called mini MLS business card stickers or change of address sticker cards. Okay. And Carrie, I'll send Chad the template from our marketing guy so that you guys have the template of this for the new address and for the MLS feature sheet for your listings. Okay.
Yep.
Right. Cool. Okay, so I've got my seller's book sitting on the dining room table. I've delivered the physical copies. I've got my mini MLS business cards that I've handed out. I've got the bouquet of flowers and that. Am I separating myself from my competitors? Yes or no?
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay. So it's all in the presentation. It's all in the process. If you build it, they will come. You'll stand out and you'll win the business before you've even gone to get the business. If that makes sense to everybody. Okay. All right. Couple of nuggets here, couple of bonus items. Okay. So any of you getting attacked on your commissions and your fees, please?
Yep.
Okay. So here's what I did with one of my clients. Okay. So this is a commission concession agreement. Okay. So say they're asking for their buying and their selling and they want an agreement. Okay. So what I have is I have an agreement that I'll give them a concession if they, and I have this agreement if they agree to the following items. Item number 1 is they sign a buyer agreement to buy from me, as well as the MLS listing contract. Is that a good idea? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. So they're going to sign a buyer agreement to buy from me again, and they're going to sign the listing contract. That's number 1 if they want a concession. Number 2, they're going to refer me a friend or a family member or coworker within the next 12 months. Okay, that's agreement number 2. Okay, number 3, if they relocate and that, they're going to agree to make sure that I get a referral fee from a relocation agent of the community they're going to as well. Okay, right? So they have to do that as well and give me that concession as well. And then the last thing is they're signing an NDA and a non-disclosure and a confidentiality to this concession agreement. So in marketplaces where anybody can sell in anything, even on their own and that, there was so much pressure. So guys, this is an agreement that we did for a concession for a client in San Francisco that I coached. It didn't matter. There's no inventory in San Fran still today. And it didn't matter if you didn't give them a bit of a deal, then you weren't going to get the listing. And so we had to figure out a way how to win the battle and not lose the war. Does that make sense? So traditionally for the last 30 years, my mentors told me to just walk away if they weren't going to pay the commissions. And I'm thinking to myself, well, they can just put up a sign and sell it themselves. They really don't need me. Let's be honest, other than the MLS and the multiples and the contracts and things like that. So why would I walk from the business and not take the listing? Why wouldn't I figure out a strategy where I could make some money and recover my costs and give them a small concession and still win the battle and the war at the same time? How many people like that idea? Make sense? Okay. I don't know what your market is, but if it's a red hot market where like anybody is and everybody is selling, this may be a way to develop a different way of you guys being able to cost recovery and make a business decision to give them a little bit of concession. But where do you give the concession, on the buy side or the sell side, guys? Think about this carefully. Do I give it on their buy side or on the sell side if they get a concession? Why is the buy side correct? Why? because I'm forcing to buy with me again in order to get the discount. I don't give the discount on the sell side. Has anybody given a concession and then they end up buying another listing or buy a FSBO or they buy from somebody else or do that, and you don't end up getting that second buy side and then you gave the concession on the list side? Anybody had that happen to them? I have. So I'm forcing them to do the buy side and give the concession on the buy side and don't give any concession on the list side, but on their buy side only. Does that make sense to everybody? Where I'm forcing them to come back and forcing them to come back and buy with me. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Makes sense. And then the last item here, guys, in that, how many of you have a structure for commission structure like laid out in phases? Like, so Harry, what's your guys's, like, I guess I got to be careful the commission isn't listening to this, but what's your guys's normal expectations for commissions in Red Deer? What are you usually asking for, please?
Alberta's really weird, and Central Alberta's the lowest, and our listing contracts are 6% on the first 100,000.
Yeah.
But 3% on the balance of the sale price.
Okay, so 6 and 3 is the running thing. So this in California, these guys, it's 6 on across the board, and then it goes down. So how many of you guys think this might be working? So how many of you guys would think that I could do a 6.5 or 7 and 3, and make that a platinum plan, and do different levels and different what you're available, what you get for your marketing here? How many people like this idea? So look at this little spreadsheet here. So imagine these numbers where this one here, this example is gold, silver, and bronze, okay? And theirs are 6% on the total amount, 5.5% on the total amount, and 4.5% on the total amount. But you notice that all the X's, for each one, there's less X's. Do you see that? Mm-hmm. So on the side here is all the items that they're providing, but you're going to add the retail dollar value of each of these activities. Does that make sense? So there's the handyman service is $1,000. The house cleaning service is $700. And you're going to add the retail dollar values of what you provide for each of the services. Would you think that you'd get less pushback when people saw your retail prices of what it cost you to put these activities into place? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yep.
Right? And then wouldn't it make sense that I would go in with like a 7 and 3 and a 6 and 3 and a 5 and 2.5, and then show them how little they get and how little I spend basically on those 3 packages? I'm not saying I won't. I'm just saying I have to make a business decision on minimizing my costs and my investments in your listing product. And then they always ask me this, well, can I get a little of the gold and a little bit of the silver and a little bit of the bronze? Right? And mix it all up in that. So at least I'm not telling them I won't. And at least I'm telling them I don't think that I can. It's just business. And I'm trying to show them how much risk and how much dollar and how much investment I'm putting into their home and into their marketing and that, and trying to minimize the pushback and trying to minimize the grinding and the cutting that I get on this particular marketing plan, and show that there is a difference between what people do. And I'm also not saying this, but I'm saying, would you agree that if people are charging less, then they're offering less than, because they can't afford to do this and they can't afford to spend this on your home? Does that make sense to you guys too? This visual?
Yep.
Okay. So how many people like this idea of putting the retail values of what it costs you and how much risk and how much investment you take and you put on as a listing agent? And then how many people like the idea? So my guys, Carrie, and my guys in my office, guys, we do an 8 and 4, a 7 and 3, which is the normal here, 7 and 3, and then they have a 6 and 3. So we have 8 and 4, 7 and 3.5, and a 6 and 3 is what we do. And when we have very few X's in that for each one. And I'll address the elephant in the room. How many of your listing agents are keeping more than they're giving away to the buying side?
Not very many.
So that's happening. That happens a ton in Kelowna. And so my personal opinion, that's a terrible idea, and you're not putting your seller's best interest at heart. Think about this. My guys are charging 7 and 3, gang, and they're paying out 3 and 1.5 and keeping 4 and 2 for the listing side. And would you agree with me? They would never have an offer and they'd never have it sold if it wasn't for the buyer and the buyer's agent.
Mm-hmm.
So keeping that and being greedy and hoarding that back and saying, well, I got to cover my marketing costs. Like listings are selling really fast here if they're good listings. So you really don't have any marketing costs because you don't even have to spend the money because it just sells so quick. So I just, karma comes back to haunt you. And when the market turns and it's really, really bad, every agent locally remembers the agent that doesn't offer the full and doesn't offer the fair half side in that. And so it comes back and bites you if you're going to be a greedy listing agent from that standpoint. Now, some of you may disagree with me and say, no, wait, I need the cost in that and I need to do that and stuff. I'm just saying is that I would do everything it took to offer at least half, if not as much as I'm getting to the cooperating agent, because I think that's putting the seller's best interest and not my own financial best interest first. How many would agree with that comment?
Yeah. We do have an office policy where if we are cutting commissions, we have to take the cut on our side. Buyer's agent always gets the normal 3 and 1.5.
And now, how many of you thought of taking the cut and being able to cost recover by getting a referral and by getting a referral fee from when they're relocating, or getting that and making that concession contract and that concession agreement in your package too as well? So that'll help you guys when you do get pressure and you're struggling, that'll help you as well. Now, I believe that if you do a good job of your process, your packaging, your presentation, everything else, and that, you shouldn't get that much pressure on your fees for services. Would that be a fair comment?
Yeah.
Right? But not all of us have our days, and there's days where I'm off and I'm not on my game in this and that. So, I mean, I just want to make sure that in a different market, like I had to come up with that commission concession idea in the market 2 years ago because everybody was getting pressure on commissions because they didn't need us other than the MLS to do the multiple offers, right? Because it was so hot. Okay. So let's just recap and summarize, guys. So first things first, you guys have got to focus on how you're going to make it rain and how you're going to make it rain listings and listing leads. And would you agree? Like I'm telling my guys, all hands on deck, all focus on generating listing leads, because everybody in the Kelowna, and I'm sure everybody in Red Deer, is thinking about listing in the spring and these next 3 months. Would you agree?
Yes.
So make it rain, listing, seller, listing, focus, lead gen, okay? Like just double down on it hard for the next 30, 60, 90 days, guys. Anything you can do to possibly get an opportunity to do a listing appointment, think about how you can do that and really double, triple, quadruple down on the listing, prospecting, listing, lead gen, okay? Because now is the time. It's hot, and this is when our sellers' minds are working and everybody wants to sell and move in the summertime and that. So it's on like Donkey Kong. So all hands on deck on listing focus. Take the time to build your packaging, take your time to build your new processes, take your time to build your new tools like the commission concession agreements and the chart showing the different levels and the different services and the costs that you're putting up. Take the time to build the feature sheets and the change of address cards and that. Take the time to implement the seller's books and the pre-listing questionnaires and the pre-listing and pre-buyer packages, and just change things up and be a lot like nobody else. Okay, right? Any questions on that material? Any questions on that information, you guys? Did everybody at least get one nugget from that situation?
Yeah.
One thing you can do different, or is everybody doing more than I just shared?
Nope.
Just check it. I got somebody in the room there. Probably Vern has one more thing that I did.
I missed most of it, but
It's okay. All right, guys. So I'm going to forward you on the slide decks. I'm going to forward you on the recordings. I'm going to forward you on the sample tools and that. Your job is to implement the process. Your job is to implement the packaging. Your job is to implement the tools and the toolkit and that, and to focus on that and do all that. Next session and next week, I believe, is with buyers. So those agents that are buyer agent focused, we'll hammer down and dive deep into that. This week was the seller's process. So again, give me an update on how you're making in your progress each week, please, and keep yourself on task in that. Get caught up on the previous week's information in that. Get back on there and keep the train going in that, and keep your momentum and keep your process going in that. Okay, guys? All right, everybody have a great week. We're back Monday next week, same time, same place. and we'll be dealing with buyers and the buyer agent and the buyer process. And hopefully I'll have a bag full of new tricks and tips and ideas for you from the buyer standpoint next week. And good luck working on your seller side and your listing side, and get out there and make it rain listings leads, guys. This is the time, the next 3 months. It's go time for that listing and that listing lead gen prospecting. Okay.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody. Have a great week, everyone. We'll talk to you next week. Take care. All the best.